You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast, but you knew that already because you clicked on it, or maybe you didn't. I just showed up. Does podcast apps have like autoplay, like music apps? I don't know. Maybe if they do, I just showed up and now you're here, so you might as well stick around. But yeah, another just like that international break is over. Come to an end, come and gone. But we will still have a little bit to talk about as we played the United States last night as we're recording this episode. And it was a pretty empty SoFi Stadium. And as many people on Twitter were saying, this is just like proof that we should maybe give this to another CONCACAF country to like host some of these matches. Maybe just a chance. I mean, you can't have any less attendance than you did for this game. I think all games should be maybe not sold out, but relatively full at least. That's my thoughts on the matter. It'd be nice. I mean, I'd love to have it at BMO Field or in Montreal, Stade Saputo or BC Place. Or frick, give it to Hamilton Stadium. Obviously they wouldn't do that, but it'd be pretty cool if they did. No, but yeah. In typical fashion, before we get into our 2-1 win over the United States, let's get to the Maple start, because why break tradition, you know? So just a few stories to run with here. Firstly, it was a bad weekend to be a Canadian MLS team. Yeah, not one of them. Not one of them picked up a win. The Vancouver Whitecaps lost their first match of the season. At least they have won this season, and they had won 4 times previous to this weekend. So definitely not the worst way to start a season. Jayden Nelson was back in the lineup, and he grabbed an assist, which is very good. Obviously, they did end up losing 3-1 to the Chicago Fire. The Fire, who have now defeated Vancouver and TFC, have the chance to do the three-peat over Montreal. Just beating all the Canadian teams, potentially. So yeah, we'll see what Montreal can do, because Montreal just sacked their coach, Laurent Courtois. Yeah, obviously my French is not good, so very sorry if that is not exactly how you pronounce his name. But yeah, he was sacked, sadly. Never want to see someone lose their job, of course. I know clubs, you know, in the nature of any sport, not just soccer, any club, you know, they fire a lot of people. But yeah, you know, you don't want to see someone lose their job. But I mean, winless to start the season, 1 draw, 4 losses, definitely not good. Lost again on the weekend, 3-0 to Nashville. Yeah, not ideal. TFC having the exact same record as Montreal as well. 1 draw, 4 losses. Not a good time to support Montreal or TFC. It has me thinking about like remember that the conference final between Montreal and TFC like 9 years ago. Wow, 9 years ago now. Yeah, makes you kind of think about that, doesn't it? Now looking nearly a decade on, going, oh, ouch. But, you know, I mean, both teams are on the rebuild right now, so we'll see kind of what they can and or can't do. But yeah, TFC back on track here. Got their 4th loss of the season, and it was their 4th straight one. Lorenzo Insigne somehow back in the lineup. Those 4 games on the sideline really showed him, I'm sure. Yeah, the worst contract, in my opinion, in Canadian sports history, not even just like MLS or anything. No, like I think that this is the worst contract in Canadian sports history. But hey, we really showed him, set him for 4 games. They lost to the Red Bulls, Raheem Edwards, shout out. But at least DeAndre Carter did score. So the only TFC player that has scored now in multiple matches this season, 5 games in. 2 goals for him on this. Is that 2? Yeah, 2 goals for him on the season. Young Canadian striker. Yeah, I like DeAndre Kerr, honestly. I think there's a lot of potential there. I would like to see him play off of like maybe a more veteran striker, because I think he could learn a lot and get more from that. Playing him as the sole number 9, I think, I don't want to say doesn't do him a service, because obviously minutes will always do you service, but I think that he still has a lot of potential that's untapped, and would really like to see him kind of flourish in that sense. But, you know, obviously not the coach, and TFC really, DeAndre Kerr is their only healthy striker that they have at the moment. Their new signing had went out hurt. So, yeah, DeAndre Kerr, I mean, it really isn't an option to play him with a veteran striker, really, when you think about it. Elsewhere in the MLS for our Canadians, Lucas McNaughton grabbed his first start and first goal for DC United in a 4-1 loss, but we don't talk about that. Kyle Hebert of St. Louis City SC grabbed his 5th consecutive start of the season. It was their first loss of the season, sadly, to Philly in a narrow 1-0 game. But yeah, good to see him getting the minutes and literally starting every single game so far this season. I'm a big fan of Hebert. I think we could actually use him at the international level. I think he is just a Swiss Army knife player. He can play right, left, and center back. So, I mean, he is quite good. I would like to see him utilized a little bit more at the international level, but obviously those are not my calls. Another man who I would love to see in the international setup, Kamal Miller and James Pantemis got a much-needed 3-0 win with Portland against the Colorado Rapids. Of course, given that it was 3-0, they kept a clean sheet. That's very good when you're a defender or a goalkeeper. So yeah, shout out to all those guys. And let's get into the meat and potatoes, the reason why you're here. Let's talk about Canada versus the United States of America. So obviously this was, of course, not the match we wanted. Well, in a sense, it was the match we wanted. It was against the guys that I think we wanted. It wasn't in the context that we wanted. We wanted United States in the final, I think. And I think it would have been really cool to see these teams, probably if it was a final, probably have a full stadium or close to. Just because I think with the rivalry here, I think it would have been cool to have seen an intense back and forth match for the trophy. But of course, neither team got it done in the semifinal, so we got the 3rd place match instead. So yes, I think, to reiterate, the team we wanted, just not in the context that we wanted. And yeah, I feel comfortable in saying that. I was gonna say something else and then just totally slipped my mind. So anyways, let's you know how I do this. We, with the international breaks, if you're a veteran around these parts. If you're not, then we kind of break it down as a pros, cons, and then we get into player by player, subs, and then just final conclusion kind of thing. So yeah, let's talk about the pros. There's a few more pros to this one than obviously the Mexico game. We won, and winning is always, everyone likes to win, and we won. So that's a pro. Obviously, we beat the United States, and that kind of takes me swiftly into my next 2 points. If you're on social media or were even watching the game last night and you had commentary on, this was Canada's first competitive win over the United States in the United States since 1957 in a World Cup qualifying match. And then back in September, of course, we did beat the United States in their own backyard for the first time in 67 years, but that was a friendly and not a competitive game. This was technically a competitive game. Yes, we can debate about a 3rd place game being a competitive game and all that stuff, but in the eyes of CONCACAF and the record books, it is a competitive game. So yes, competitive game, first competitive win in the States. I mean, that's good, but I feel like even if it's a friendly, every game's a little bit competitive now. That's sport, right? That's the nature of sport, right? It's competitive. That game in September, both teams wanted to win that one because it's bragging rights over one of your fellow CONCACAF people. Getting sidetracked, it doesn't matter. But yes, anyways, technically competitive win for the first time since World Cup qualifying. Let's get back on track, I guess. So this kind of piggybacking off of that, this is the second of my first point. So 1B. It's our first time ever beating them back-to-back on home soil. So that's at least showing that some tides are turning or have turned in CONCACAF. And I believe I saw a stat that it was our first time beating them back-to-back full stop since we did it in 1980 and 1985. But that could be wrong. I glanced at it on Twitter and was busy this morning. So I didn't really look too much into that. But yeah, the other ones I can say I have looked into. I've looked at my sources. And yeah, those are the ones I have listed are true. I don't know if that 80 and then 85 is true, so don't go around quoting that. If it's not true, disregard I ever said it. I saw it on Twitter. Next positive is It was Tani Time again on international stage this time. He came into the international break in some good form, coming into it with 2 goals and an assist to start his season. He got the nod this game ahead of some of our new duels, and he repaid Marsh his faith with his first ever goal for Canada. A massive moment for him. He's been waiting for that one in his, I think, 11 or 12 caps now. I think he's shown lots of potential in these caps and has been a bit unlucky at times to not get a goal. I think of that shot that hit both posts against Suriname. And then, of course, there have been other times where he could have been more clinical. He even said that after this game in an interview. He said there's been times when he's left the pitch for Canada that he thinks he should have converted some of his chances. But on this day, he did. He converted against the States, made his shot count, goes in. Nice, really just like a typical like striker's rebound goal. Ball kind of just falls to him, and there you go, your first international goal. So yeah, hopefully that's the first of boatloads that he scores for the national team. I'm sure that'll do him a world of confidence, both on the international stage with, of course, competition from Kyle Larin, Jonathan David, Promise David, Daniel Jebison, and then guys that didn't even like get called, like Theo Bair, Jason Russell-Rowe. We're actually pretty stacked in that position. So I think that would do him the world of confidence there. And then even heading back to Minnesota, I think that will also do a lot for him going back to his club. So yeah, congratulations to Tani Oluwaseyi. Next up, I've said this many times this season, and I shall say it again. Jonathan David is the best player in CONCACAF right now. He just did what he does for Canada, dropped back a number of times to play as our conductor at moments, even making some last-ditch tackles in the defense. Like, okay, I see you, Jonathan David. And yeah, Jesse Marsh has gone on record and has said Jonathan David is one of the smartest players he's ever coached, and you can really see why when Jonathan David plays how he does under Jesse Marsh. He's just a different beast. He also gets the game-winning goal, of course, with a great effort, and it's a great read by him too. Sees Matt Turner in a terrible position, doesn't waste any time, receives the pass, and then instead of trying to shift the ball onto his stronger right foot, he takes it onto his left and curls it in past Matthew Turner. And yeah, I don't know what Matthew Turner is doing. I don't know why he's given Jonathan David that much space to operate in, because you know that if David sees a pocket of that net open, he's obviously going to shoot for that pocket. He's a striker. That's kind of his bread and butter. I see open net. I shoot the ball at open net. Yeah, like, I don't really know what Matthew Turner's doing there. I don't really know what the defense is doing there. In all fairness, leaving a guy like Jonathan David that open. You see, Mexico at least, like, they figured it out. Hey, guys, let's just mark Jonathan David out the game. And they did. USA did not do that. So yeah, it's just very interesting to me that the way that both teams kind of handled Jonathan David. One, you totally isolated him against Mexico. He's isolated against Mexico, and then against the States, that he was able to do Jonathan David things. And yeah, so best player in CONCACAF, and I think it's the only one that I would say comes close at the moment on form is Raul Jimenez, and I'm really just saying that based off of this tournament that he's had with Mexico, because I mean, 4 goals in 2 games is pretty insane. But yeah, just overall, I think season-wise, I'd put Jonathan David as our best player in CONCACAF at the moment. Moving into another player, actually, Ali Ahmed impressed yet again. I said last match against Mexico, he looked like our best attacker, that anything would happen through. But against Mexico, it felt like he wasn't making the right choices, maybe not lifting his head up to give him a read of the game situation to pick out the right man. But this game, I thought against the States, he looked more settled, looked more mature, really. Looked like he gelled better with the team and was doing really well, picking the right passes, finding his man, taking on defenders, running in behind. He played a massive part in the first goal and grabbed an assist on the second. So yeah, really, everything that he was doing last game that worked for him, he continued to do it this game. And the things that weren't working for him last game, he tweaked, and they were now. Like, he was giving himself, I found, more time on the ball, was analyzing the play a bit more. It looked like it wasn't just like a hopeful like hit into the middle. Like, he was actually like looking up, where should I cross it to, who should I pass to, who's free, instead of last game against Mexico. It was almost like he'd get the ball and he's like, okay, I gotta get rid of it. This game he was more calm, looked up, found his pass, found 2 great passes. The first pass, of course, for the first goal, finds Jonathan David, kind of deflects around the box after Jonathan David scores it. Jonathan David picks up the funniest assist I think he'll ever get as he shoots it United States defender blocks it. It hits then back off the shin of Jonathan David and falls to Tani Oluwaseyi. So all assists count. But yeah, so that kind of starts from Ali Ahmed. And then, of course, the second goal, Ali Ahmed lays the ball off to Jonathan David, and Jonathan David scores. So yeah, I thought he was very good. I think it shows signs of a true proper player as well. He saw what didn't work last game and then goes, okay, how about if I change that? And he did. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. He's had, I don't want to say a slow start to his season with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but definitely I don't think one not as exciting as last season for him just yet. Of course, I mean he's only 4 games into his MLS season, so now getting to kind of be in the Canada mix and playing a lot and playing well with Canada, I think that'll do him the world of good. Kind of like Tani Oluwaseyi, he's going to do him good going back to club level. And I mean, hey, the Whitecaps are not short on Canadian ballers. You got Ralph Prizo, Jane Nelson, Sam Adekubi, Ali Ahmed. So yeah, I mean they're doing pretty good over there in Vancouver. And yeah, I mean Ali Ahmed is a very exciting talent, and I'm very excited to see what he can do during the MLS season. And moving into his fellow winger on the day, Tajon Buchanan got some major minutes in the bank, and whilst he did look rusty at times, I thought he looked really good. I really did. These are the games where it's like, yeah, that's my guy. I love Tajon Buchanan. I think he's a great player. I think he's very versatile. I think he's quite good in defending and attacking, and great with the press as well, which is so important to Jesse Marsh's style of play. Kind of like Ali Ahmed, I thought he looked threatening on and off the ball, and played a massive part in our second goal as well, which proved to be the winner. I love Tay's show. I just wanted to see him balling at his best again, and it feels like we're getting there. It really does. I mean, that injury that he suffered during the Copa America, then coming back, not really playing, then going to Villarreal, has kind of found it a bit difficult there. But just before the break, he starts versus Real Madrid. Now he starts this game, came off the bench against the States. So it kind of feels like maybe we could be seeing that consistency for Tajon Buchanan. I think that's very important coming off of an injury that he still hasn't really been able to fully shake off in terms of game, at least, because he hasn't really played a whole ton. So I think it'll be very good. I'm very excited to see what he can do with the remainder of his season with Villarreal. And yeah, I just thought I thought he had a good game. So just wanted to shout out Tage, because yeah, he's found it difficult since joining Inter Milan, and then has not had it really any easier throughout all of last year. But it looks like, hopefully, knock on wood, it's turned around a little bit. But enough being positive, let's be a little bit negative now. We're moving into the cons, and of course no game is perfect, because there are always some cons. Most importantly, Alphonso Davies coming off injured about 15 minutes into the match. Yeah, not good. There haven't been many updates, at least that I've seen. And as of recording this, maybe by the time this is up, it's confirmed that it's nothing major, which I'm hoping it is. So we'll have to wait and see. But Mauro Biello, because Jesse Marsh was sent off, Mauro Biello was on post-match duties, and he didn't seem to know much more either, as he just kind of said it seemed like a knock. So hopefully that's really all it is. But yeah, getting hurt in a third place match after having a few injury struggles this season with Bayern, he and Bayern must be kind of frustrated, I would imagine. I'm of course hoping, like I said, it's nothing major, and hoping that he's okay, because he's Alphonso Davies. So we need him, and Bayern needs him. Another con I would say is, if we played like this against Mexico, maybe that game could have been a bit different, because I think for the most of this game, it wasn't even close between us and the States. I truly believe that. I know the scoreline was 2-1, and we're kind of going to get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I really think that for a majority of this game, like, the States didn't come close to us at all. We looked a far better team, and that could be my bias. I don't know. There definitely were times where the States looked like they were creeping back into the game, but like I said, we'll kind of get into that. But right now, if we had played against Mexico like that, I can't help but think maybe it could have been a little bit different against Mexico. Who knows? Maybe it's not at all. But I just thought that Jesse Marsh got it a bit more right today, or when the game was played against versus Mexico. But the problem is, like, today I would have also been calling for more rotation. So don't worry, we'll also get into that. I feel like I'm kind of running all over the place here. Sticking with this, he gets it right on the day, and then you compare it to Mexico, where it feels like he didn't really get it right. and it just kind of a little bit, I don't want to say frustrating, I guess more annoying, because like if we had played like this, if we had set up like this, maybe it's different against Mexico. And yes, you can play that game all day long with any team once they win a game after they've lost one. You know how it is. It's sport, right? We all go, oh man, if only we had done this, that, and the other. It's different. So, it just kind of, so I guess this is kind of a positive rolled into a con, and I'm putting it in the con section. But yeah, just a bit of a shame, because I do think that if we played like this, it may have been different and we may have been playing for that trophy, just maybe. Another con I would say is not enough rotation, as I kind of touched upon, because whilst he did get it right and there was some rotation, I think I would like to have seen more. The strikers, whilst they did both score, so I can't really have any gripes with it. They both proved Jesse Marsch right in his selection. Tani and Jonathan David both score. So yeah, I'm a bit of like but he shouldn't have played the other. I feel like he should have, and I had said, in all fairness, I had said that last podcast, I would have been putting these guys in for this game. Let's see what they can do, kind of thing. But Jesse Marsch kind of sticks with what he knows. He does give Oluwaseyi a chance. So you got him kind of coming in, and then no Daniel Jefferson, no Promise David. Sorry, I just wrote down David, and I was like, wait, David did start. Promise David. No Promise David or Daniel Jefferson. And then, of course, Kyle Larin came out for Tani Oluwaseyi. Whilst he did end up getting in, I would have started Seager. I think he deserved to start, and I would have started him in the midfield. I would have seen what he can do in the midfield, because that's his natural position. I thought he looked very good at right back, and he definitely came in very cold to this game. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen him start. And then even like with our goalkeepers, we know what Crepeau and St. Clair can do. Why not try Tom McGill? Like, why not? Once again, that's just my opinion. And I will say, I do like that he put in Tejan Buchanan and Chouanier. I do think that was definitely a good call. And letting Kone also play this game as well, given that he, kind of like Tej, hasn't played a whole ton this season. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Whilst I am happy with the win, I'm happy with the win. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more rotation, a little bit. And yeah, once again, this is kind of complaining, I guess, for complaining's sake, but I had said it in the last episode, so I'm just gonna say it here now. I will say though, a part that fully disappoints me, full stop, regardless of the result, Promise David not even touching the grass. He didn't even get on. We called him up and he doesn't get on. I don't really like that. It's his first camp. He's in hot form. It's not like we called him up as like a last minute addition and was like, okay, we're just gonna call him up just to fill a body. Like, no, he was called up because he deserves to be there. He's had a phenomenal season, and he doesn't even see a minute. I don't know. I don't really like that. I don't like when managers do that in general with these international tournaments, whether it's World Cup, Euros, Copa, Gold Cup, CONCACAF Nations League, whatever. I don't know. I feel like if you bring them and they deserve to play, then they should play, and he more than deserved to play. But like I said, when both of the strikers scored on the day, it's hard to be like, but these guys, So that's kind of just how I feel about the rotation. And since we kind of already mentioned goalkeepers with Crepeau and St. Clair, I think we should speak about the goalkeeper. After this match, I think we know definitively who our number one should be. I do like St. Clair, and I do rate him very highly. Whilst the American goal, he was hung out to dry a little bit by his defense. Again, I think he could stop that. It was shot right at him. If the guy had rifled at top corner or bottom corner or something, then fair enough. There really wasn't much St. Clair could have done in that case. But the dude kind of just kicked it at St. Clair and it goes through his legs. I don't know. I feel like we have seen enough from Maxime Crepeau. I think that barring injury or suspension until the World Cup next summer, he should be our number one. That's kind of how I feel. I know Jesse Marsch picks this position on form, and that's why St. Clair was in this tournament. But I don't know. I feel like Crepeau hasn't done anything on a Canada level to lose that spot. He's actually done a lot to keep him in that spot. And I think he, in my opinion, he's just, in that Canada jersey, he's a different class. He's just so good. You feel so secure with him in net. And yeah, that's just how I feel. I think Obviously, it's Marsh's decision, and if he bases it on form, it might be neither of them come next summer. It could be someone else. But yeah, for me, I do think that this tournament has shown that it should be Crepeau. I like I said, I feel bad because I do like Dane St. Clair, but I just think Crepeau is just that caliber, in my opinion. Dane St. Clair, he is definitely very good. He's a very good backup to have, and I think on a lot of other international teams, I mean, he starts on the States. I think he'd be their best goalkeeper, you know. I think he'd probably start in Mexico because they don't really have a good goalkeeper either. Like, I think that he's a very quality goalkeeper. I just think that Crepeau, when that Maple Leaf is on his chest, he becomes like prime Buffon. It's crazy. Another con, Jesse Marsch gets sent off. And on one hand, I kind of love that he's standing up for his boys. But on the other, I think you have to know when to rein it in and put the emotions aside, especially as the head coach. I think that you have to kind of keep your emotions a little bit more in check. And like I said, I love that he's sticking up for his boys, although neither of those challenges were penalties. So I'd be very interested to see what Jesse Marsch thinks when he watches those back. I'm going like, I got sent off for this. You know, but yeah, as much as I do like that he's sticking up for his boys and is showing that he cares as well, I do think that there is a line that you then have to go, okay, I have to shut up. I could get sent off, and he does in fact get sent off. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about that. Another con would be we were shutting off at a few points in this match and letting the States back in. I mean, there was a classic bit of commentary curse while Luke Wildman and Steve Caldwell were talking about how it's really been all Canada. It's been, you know, they've been doing very well. The States haven't really had much chance. They've barely even been in Canada's half. And then like a minute or two later, United States scores off of their first chance of the game. So obviously not blaming the commentators, just, you know, the old saying, the commentators curse. Yeah, I mean, it was instances like that where it's like, and that's where I think we need to improve as a team. We kind of shut off at moments and let the other team back in. We were doing it a little bit in the second half, but thankfully our center backs, Cornelius and Bombito, kind of bailed us out a few times. Dane St. Clair did make a very nice save on Luna. And yeah, I just think if you want to be a top team, you can't be shutting off like that. And obviously, it doesn't cost us on this day, but on another day, it could. And then finally, to wrap it all up, I still think that we need to be a little bit more creative. I think that we need to take our chances a little bit better, and I think set pieces still need some work. I did like that Chouanier was on the set pieces. I think he is probably our best set piece taker. So that's definitely an improvement. Now I think we just need to get to the fact of people need to be on the end of those crosses that he's delivering from the corners or free kicks. And then, yeah, just taking our chances and being a little bit more creative, I feel like goes without saying, because I've said it a good few times and I'll probably keep saying it until the cows come home, because seemingly we just don't want to score more than 2 or 3 per game, because I really don't think that this game should have been anywhere near 2-1. I really think that based on the play, it could have been 3-4-0 kind of thing. But that's what happens, right? You shut off a couple of times, or you don't convert your chances, and it's a closer game than probably it should be, you know? So let's get into player by player. I know those pros and cons were quite a bit, but I feel like there's still a lot to talk about in this game, as there was with the Mexico game. So let's kind of move into player by player. This might be a little bit shorter. So starting with Dane St. Clair, as I kind of made my thoughts clear, I do think that he should be our second choice moving forward. As much as I do like him, I just think that Crepeau he's that guy. You know, I don't know how else to put it. He's him, you know. And Dane St. Clair he came up big with a big stop towards the end of the game. But yeah, I just think anytime that he was properly tested this tournament, he didn't pass the test. The first goal he concedes against Mexico, I don't really blame him for that. The free kick, I do think he should stop. And this goal against the States, I think he should stop. So really, you watch that and you go, okay, you need your number one to stop these things. He does make a good save, not taking that away. But yeah, I just think Crepeau is just, like I said, I don't know how else to put it. He's him. He's that guy. He's just different. Moving into the defense, we'll start off with Alphonso Davies because there's the least amount to say about Alphonso Davies. Sadly, he goes off injured in, let's get the exact minute. in the 12th minute. So not even 15. 12 minutes in, he goes off injured. So yeah, not a whole ton to say outside of I really hope it's not serious. Alistair Johnston, who started as right back, but then played basically the entire game at left back, I thought played very well. This was the Alistair Johnston that I think we know, throwing his body on the line, not making dumb challenges. He's definitely always plays on that edge of like he's gonna slide tackle someone or he's gonna, maybe foul someone. But I thought against Mexico it was excessive, and it was out of character for him to be doing it so much and to be doing it to almost at the detriment of the team. This game I thought he really shirted up, looked really good, and that was just the Alistair Johnston that we know playing as a left back, which I don't think he's ever done. So that also speaks to his quality and his class. He didn't look out of position at all in that left back spot. Like, if that was your first game ever watching Alistair Johnston and you were told, yeah, that's our starting left back always, I don't think that you would not believe it. You probably go, yeah, that makes sense. He's very good there. Our center backs, Moise Bombito, what more is there to say? Like, national treasure, Moise Bombito, what is there to say? He's so good. His potential is through the roof. If I'm any top club in Europe, I'm paying that 15 million for him, because that's what it's probably going to cost you to get him from Nice, instead of paying the 60 million that it will in a year. Like, every club should be scouting this guy and going, he's our guy for the next 5 to 10 years. He is that good. He has all the makings to be a top level center back, and he's already like one of the better center backs in Europe. So yeah, he's just phenomenal. He's just so good. That block at the end there that he made just puts his body in front of the ball. He's just so good. Absolutely came out of nowhere. Jesse Marsch. This is probably the best gem I would say that Jesse Marsch unearthed, I would say. I know that Bombito had a stint in the 2023 Gold Cup with Canada, but this feels like a Jesse Marsch guy, where Jesse Marsch trusted him. He gave him the keys, puts him into the starting 11, and he has started every single Jesse Marsch game. He's so good. He really is. If I'm any team, I'm putting the checkbook out, writing 15 million on there, and handing it to Nice, going, here you go, because we know in a year this guy's going to be worth like quadruple that. So thank you very much. We'll take 15 good. Yeah. Derek Cornelius, I feel like, is usually an unsung hero for the Canadian men's national team, at least in his time under Jesse Marsch. I think it's probably because he's playing next to Moise Bombito that Bombito gets a lot of the praise. And rightfully so, Bombito is phenomenal. But Derek Cornelius, I really love Derek Cornelius. He looks so calm, assured on the ball, helps us build from the back. He also himself made some big tackles, big blocks. And yeah, I think that is a great center back pairing. It's definitely the center back pairing, barring any injury or suspensions, that we will probably be seeing in the lead up to the World Cup. And I would say most likely at said World Cup. Like I said, barring injuries or suspension, as I knock on wood, because I hate injuries. So, who does? Who likes injuries? Moving into our midfield, Ishmael Kone and Chouanier got the nod. I was kind of concerned about this because I feel like they're kind of similar-ish players, and I was kind of worried about how they would complement each other. But we'll start off with Ishmael Kone. I thought he looked good. He kind of like Tajon Buchanan, looked a little bit rusty. Looks like he's not in that up-to-game speed, but yeah, I thought he looked quite good at moments. He got to carry the ball a little bit, got to distribute, which, is what we like from Ishmael Kone. Those little Kone-esque runs that he does where he grabs the ball and then just goes, and no way can get the ball off him when he does that, and then he lays it off. I think his decision-making at times kind of lets him down here and there. Whether it's defensively or on the attack, he sometimes doesn't know when to commit, when to not commit, when to pass, when not to pass. But that will also come with just maturity, age, and game time, because he is still young. I know it feels like Kone's been here for like 10 years. He's 23 or 22 even. He's one of the two. But yeah, he's still very young. And of course, not playing regularly at club level doesn't help like at all. So yeah, I was impressed with him on the day. I thought he looked good. He looked very solid. He looked good next to Chouanier. And speaking of Chouanier, yeah, this guy should be our starting midfielder. He should be. I'm sorry. He's he's very, very good. He has high potential here as well. It was doing great with Montreal over the last couple of years. Now has been in out Grasshoppers lineup, but it hasn't seemed to affect him at the international level. He looks very good. The way that he defends, I find he's in the right spot all the time. Like, if a player needs him as like an outlet to pass to, he's there. If you need him to help defend, he's there. If you need him in the attack, he's there. If you need him to take a set piece, he is there. He just seems to be there. He was the engine on the day. The game went through him, I found, and he just really was controlling what we were doing. He was quickly spraying the ball about. He was winning the ball back for us. He was, like I said, on our set pieces, an outlet. I was very impressed with Choinière, and as I said last episode, and I'll reiterate this episode, should be our starting midfielder for the foreseeable future. I think he was top class. Our wingers, I talked a lot about them already, so I'll kind of keep it brief. Ali Ahmed showed that he is a proper baller, leaving the field with an assist. And yeah, I mean, what more can I really say that I haven't already? What really impressed me most about his performance was that he put it all together. Last game, like I said, decision-making kind of wasn't there. This game, it was all there. His play style, his decision-making, everything. It was all wrapped up in a neat little bow and signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. For Ali Ahmed, he was great. I thought he was very good. One of our better players on the day for sure. Tajon Buchanan, kind of like Ali Ahmed, like I already talked about him. I'll keep it short. Just very happy to see Tajon play. Very happy to see him play. He's one of my favorites to watch on this national team, just because he's so good both ways. I really do enjoy him, and I think we still have that. We still have that Tajon. Just we need to see it at club level now and see him get into the Villarreal side and push on, and potentially a permanent move away from Inter Milan if he's not in those plans. Maybe it's Villarreal, maybe it's someone else, who knows. But yeah, he needs to go where he's going to play consistently, because it's only going to help him and it's only going to help us. Jonathan David, Tani Oluwaseyi, our strikers on the day. Kind of like the last two guys, I've already kind of talked about them. Jonathan David is a different class to, I think, everyone in CONCACAF at the moment. He's just so good. He's really good, and I think this team really complements him, and he really complements this team. It's a perfect fit, I think. He gets to play conductor, he gets to play number 9, he gets to play friggin' center back if he wants to, making some of those last-ditch tackles, So you really get to see the best of Jonathan David, how he's not just a poacher number 9, he is a top-class player all-round. Tani Oluwaseyi gets his first international goal, and I think that's the story for Tani Oluwaseyi here. He's found it difficult, I think, at times with Canada. Jesse Marsh has shown a lot of faith in him, has rewarded him a lot. There's been times where Tani Oluwaseyi has missed some chances, hasn't converted, but on the day he does, and now we'll see what he can kind of do, how he kind of kicks on after this. Moving into our subs, Nico Sigur, I thought, was very good. He was very impressive on the day. Playing right back, of course, he is very versatile. You can play center mid and right back. Plays right back on the day. I am looking forward to the day where we finally do see him deployed in the midfield for Canada, because I don't think we've seen it yet in his few caps. I think he has only exclusively played right back so far for us. But yeah, I thought he looked very good. He really, not many problems for him. Like, anything that was a problem, he kind of shut down. The few times where he was bypassed, Cornelius covered for him well, which is what you'd of course want from your center back. And yeah, I thought he was very impressive, honestly. And like I said, really want to see him in the midfield. Kyle Larin comes on for Tani Oluwaseyi in the 66th. I mean, it really just felt like a way to get Larin a cap. Nothing really changed when he came in. He was running the lines. I don't really think he chalked up a notable chance. And this isn't Kyle Larin hate, by the way, because I know people don't seem to love Kyle Larin. I really do like Kyle Larin. I just can't really think of like a proper chance he had. I don't really think he just didn't really get involved in the game. So that's kind of my thoughts on Kyle Larin. I think, and once, not to dunk on Kyle Larin, because I do very much like Kyle Larin. I want to reiterate that. I don't want my words to be twisted. I really like Kyle Larin. I just wish it was a Daniel Jebison or a Promise David, just to see what they can do, because Daniel Jebison, while he did play last game, only got like 10 minutes and we were already 2-0 down. So really, what was he ever going to do or show for us? And Promise David, of course, has not played for us. This was his first camp, and he doesn't play. He was in great form coming into this camp, has had a great season. I think it would have been nice to reward him here, get a 25-minute run out, and see what he can do. Jacob Schaffelberg also came on in the 66th for Tajon Buchanan. Kind of like Buchanan and Kone, you could tell he looked rusty. He was trying to make some runs here and there. They never really found him. Anytime he kind of got on the ball, I thought he lost it more than anything. I don't think it was one of his better days, but in all fairness, he didn't need to have one of his better days. I thought he's shown up for Canada multiple times, but, I just thought it was kind of an uneventful day for Jacob Schaffelberg, which you can't often say. He's usually very much an eventful player. But yeah, coming off 16 minutes in the MLS this season. He got more minutes in this one game alone than he has in his entire MLS season so far. Injury, the thing that we all love, injury. So yeah, we'll see what he can kind of offer Canada again. We know what he can offer, but we'll kind of see what he can do when he goes back and starts playing again throughout the season. And I'm sure we'll most likely get called for the Gold Cup squad, barring any injury. But yeah, no, it just wasn't his most eventful day. In the 87th minute, we brought on the duo of Estacio and Osorio for Ali Ahmed and Mathieu Chouanier. Yeah, they were just brought on to see out the game, and they did that. They have very good chemistry, the two of these. I do like watching Oso and Estacio play together. I think they play off each other really well, and of course that's going to happen. They've been playing at the international level together for like 6 years now. So yeah, they have that built-in chemistry. But yeah, just on the day, they got like 3 minutes, were brought on to just see out the game, and that's what they did. So yeah, that's what I have to say about them. So yeah, let's kind of wrap this up here. Just because that brings us to an end of, even though it ends on a positive with a win, I would say a disappointing Nations League, because we all know what we wanted here. And it didn't happen. So I think now the Gold Cup is a non-negotiable. I think we need to win that, and I hope we do. I don't think we're going to be bringing the quote-unquote A-team. I would imagine that a lot of the European guys will get a rest, like Alistair Johnston, Tajon. I could actually see Tajon coming to the Gold Cup just to get some minutes if the rest of his season if he doesn't get a ton of minutes the rest of his season. Same goes for Kone. But yeah, I could see Kyle Larin not coming. Alphonso Davies, of course, I don't really think he's going to come. Jonathan David. I would bring Promise David. Let's see what he can do. I would like to bring Promise David. Just some guys that I think should be integrated into the team. I would bring, if we're not going to bring our quote-unquote A-team. Like, I'd love to see Nathan Saliba. I'd like to see Nico Segier get a chance in the midfield. I like to bring back Kyle Hebert. I think he's looked phenomenal for St. Louis over the last 2 years and hasn't really had a sniff in the national side. I'd bring in Adekubi. I'd bring in Samuel Piette. Yep, you probably didn't think you'd be hearing that name. No, I'd bring in Samuel Piette. I think he's a classy player. I think that he still has a spot in this team, and especially in the Gold Cup, where, like I said, I assume we're going to be playing our not number ones. So I would be bringing Samuel Piette, bring him in, have him play, and if anything, it would probably be one of his last major call-ups, just because I don't really think he's in Jesse Marsh's plans. I'd bring up Kamal Miller. I'd bring up Daniel Jebison, Promise David. I'd bring in Jaden Nelson. I'd bring in Ali Ahmed. I'd change up the goalkeepers a little bit too if you wanna get funky with it. I would call up Owen Goodman, the young goalkeeper playing for Wimbledon, I believe it is, had said a week or two ago at this point now that his dream is to play for Canada. Cap tie him. That's what top nations do. If he doesn't turn out to be the goalkeeper, okay, what the worst that happened is you played him for a game or so, and then we never called him up again. But he's cap tied, so who cares? Because that's what top nations do. Italy, England, Spain, Brazil. If they have guys that are duals, they call them up and they play them immediately. Look at what England did with Fikayo Tomori. The moment that he could have played for Canada, they cap tied him immediately, because there was that weird period where he had been capped for England, but it had been a long time, or whatever the proper role is, but it essentially had been a little while, and they called him and they cap tied him. Now he's English, and they haven't called him since. They cap tie him. This is what we should do if we want to be a top team. Okay, you might hurt some people's feelings, but as bad as this sounds, that's what's going to happen. Bring these guys up, cap tie them, and maybe see what they can do. I know I just list off like a ton of names there, and there is going to be like 23 or 26 spots for the Gold Cup, in and around there. All the international tournaments have different set amount of players that you can bring, so we'll go with 23 to 26. But yeah, I'd bring some different guys. I'd give some other guys a run out. I'd see what some guys can do, because you also want to see what you got coming into the World Cup. And I know we have a lot of friendlies coming up, but I feel like those friendlies will consist of most of our like Davids, Alistair Johnstons, because you want to get them playing together as much as you can before the World Cup. But yeah, for the Gold Cup, I would be bringing these guys. I think they're quality as well. So it's not like it's, if we bring them, we're not going to win the tournament. Like, I think that these guys are more than capable of winning a tournament. I think that they're very good. So yeah, I'd bring a lot of these guys up, see what they can do. And if worse comes to worse, oh well, we don't win the tournament, and I mean, obviously that sucks, but I would like to see what these guys can do. And one final thing, I'd bring up some CPL guys. I know, but Sam, bring them up. If they're good enough, bring them up, because I think it shows incentive for the CPL. I think it adds legitimacy to the CPL, and we have class players in the CPL. I mean, look at Kwesi Poku. He got called up last year because of what he did with Forge in the CPL. Then he moved to Belgium, started out well, and then he got called up to the national team because of majority of what he did with Forge. So obviously there is something there of these guys are good. They're quality players. Like, and that's just how I see it, and I could be wrong, and we should never bring up CPL players, as I'm sure what some people are thinking, but if they're good, why not? Like, I'm not just saying like bring up any CPL player just cause. Like, no, bring up the guys that like you feel like can contribute, and I do feel like there are guys that can contribute in the CPL. So yeah, that's my final thought for that. I'd bring them up for the Gold Cup. Obviously, I know I'm listing off like a ton of players, and there's only so many spots, and I do get that. So of course there will be hard decisions. There will be guys that I think will miss out that I probably will think shouldn't. There will be guys that you think probably shouldn't miss out that could miss out. And that's great, because that shows we have depth, and that shows that something is working too, because for the longest time we were just calling up if they were Canadian, we're like, come on, we need players, come on, so it's good to see that we do have the depth, and people will get upset with choices and with calls. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on our CONCACAF Nations League, and I guess kind of looking forward to the Gold Cup. I know that it's still 3 months away because it's in June, but that'll be here before you know it. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that about the Gold Cup, just because I think it's beneficial, I think. So yeah, that brings us to an end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening and spending this I've been recording now for 46 minutes. So thank you for spending these 46 minutes with me. Keep supporting and watching Canadian. The NSL is starting in April. What is the exact date, you may ask? I will double check that right now. April 16th. Is when it starts. I paused the mic. I wanted to make sure. I knew it was sometime in April. I just didn't know which exact date. But yeah, it starts April 16th. CPL is starting very shortly as well, April 5th. So support your team. Support Canadian. That's the big thing right now. So let's get behind that. Let's support some Canadian footy. Why not? So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. And yeah, keep watching any of these spaces, all that fun stuff. Maple Footy Pod and Sam Little 44 everywhere. So yeah. Keep watching out, and I'll be back with Prem recaps and whatnot once the Prem is back underway. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.